All right, welcome back, everyone, to Weekend Prime Time. Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security now says the administration should consider arresting members of Congress who were involved in last night's chaotic scene outside a New Jersey ICE facility. And this comes after the arrest last night of Newark, New Jersey Mayor Ras Baraka. Video from the scene showed the dramatic arrest, along with several lawmakers being denied entry into the facility. Homeland Security has accused the lawmakers of storming the facility, but the lawmakers say they were trying to carry out their oversight responsibilities. On set with us right here, two of the members of Congress who were involved in that, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver and Congressman Robert Menendez of New Jersey. It's great to have both of you with us. So there's a lot of back and forth going on about what exactly happened. And I was wondering if we can start off by just setting the record straight from your vantage point as to what happened and what were you doing there. I'll give a chance to both of you. But tell us, first of all, why you were there and how did this escalate to having an elected official arrested?
Sure. So I appreciate the opportunity because it's important that we set the record straight. So we've conducted oversight visits at the Elizabeth Detention Center before. So we have the right as members of Congress to go to a Department of Homeland Security detention facility unannounced and provide an oversight tour. We've done this before. People do it throughout the country. That's what we were going there to do that day. It's a recently opened facility. We wanted to go in ourselves, see what the conditions were like. Before the situation that we've been talking about for the last 24 hours, we had already been there for over an hour and a half. We had been granted access. All of ICE in their field office in Newark knew that we were there. So this idea that moment that people have been talking about for the last 24 hours was us storming in, we had already been granted access. We had already been sitting there and waiting for our tour for over an hour and a half patiently. So the administration's characterization of this is completely fabricated. And we're happy at any point to talk through the series of events with them as well.
Can I just put a finer point on that, and not to interrupt you, I apologize, but does that privilege that you have to go into a facility extend to the mayor of Newark or to anyone that you bring with you?
It does not on an unannounced basis.
Okay.
We can bring staff with us if we give 24 hours notice, but the mayor was waiting there for us to come out, not to go in with us. And that's an important point that's been mischaracterized by the administration.
Correct. As Rob said, we were there just to do our jobs. We are members of Congress. The people of New Jersey expect for us to do our jobs, the people that we represent, and we were there to do an oversight visit, and it's simply that. We went there to do that. We've done this before in the past, as Rob has said. We have proof that we've done that in the past. Rob was actually just there just a couple of weeks ago with Senator Kim, and we were met with confrontation. That is exactly what happened. It was totally unnecessary, but we were just simply there acting as members of Congress.
This is a newer immigration detention facility administered by a private prison corporation. What are you worried about in terms of what's happening on the inside?
Well, I mean, one, we had no notification about them opening up. We had saw the mayor of Newark talking about how they had some, conflicts with code enforcement, fire, those things. And so we're like, hey, we never been here before. We didn't really get any information about this facility. And they had just started accepting detainees, according to them, as of May 1st. So we're like, hey, let's go inside. We had gotten reports that children were there. That was very concerning. And so that's why we showed up to go there to make sure the prison was up to par. They were up to code. I mean, we're not professionals in code, but we wanted to see what was going on in there, speak to some detainees, which we had the opportunity to do, to speak with them. So that was our number one thing, just doing our job, going there to make sure everything was okay at this new facility.
As Eamon meant, sorry, go on.
I could just add one thing to both of your questions. So after the scene that we've been talking about for the last 24 hours, we were invited in to conduct our oversight tour. So they're saying that we stormed the facility. Why would you bring us in?
And
right,
give us a tour.
and bring us soda, right? Because Bonnie was a little dehydrated, right? Why would you do that if we had stormed this facility? So that's, to me, the point that I think is important for people to understand is, one, that after that scenario that people are saying was a political stunt, we did our job, as LaMonica said. The reason that we were there was to conduct an oversight tour. We stayed, we waited over 2 hours, we went through that mistreatment, and we did our job afterwards.
When you say Bonnie, you're talking about Bonnie
Coleman, sorry.
Right, and she is an 80-year-old congresswoman who you can see in that video is at the center of that scuffle. Kind of a tug of war. In a way, it was a bit frightening to watch her at the center of that live last night. What was that like for you both?
I mean, it was definitely upsetting to me. I mean, I was saying, please do not touch her. Get your hands off of her, because I was, very scared about what might happen. I didn't want her, to fall down, get hurt. I mean, I have a lot of respect. We both have a lot of respect for Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who has been a mentor to both of us. And so we were just trying to protect her as well. I mean, as you can see, they had no regard to her being there, to any of us being there, or anyone, with all of the pushing and the shoving that was taking place. But I was just super frightened at the time, and I kept having her in mind. And even afterwards, we were like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? I mean, we asked for a soda for her that they offered us and gave to us. But, it's just, she's our elder. She's someone we're on the shoulders on. She's the first Black woman elected to Congress from New Jersey. And, we have, much regard to make sure we're taking care of our member that was with us.
DHS has since threatened to arrest members of Congress, including the two of you. What's your response to that?
I mean, it's an act of intimidation. That's what all of yesterday was. We showed up there, the three of us. We had been waiting patiently for an hour and a half. The mayor, unbeknownst to us, presents himself at the gate. He's there with one other person, maybe. They bring over 20 armed ICE and HSI officials to the gate, who are masked, who have no identification on them, who are there with the ICE brass from Newark to confront 3 lawmakers, members of Congress, and the mayor of New Jersey's largest city. So everything that they've been doing has been to escalate the situation and to make us fearful of doing our job, to make the mayor fearful of doing his job, and in my opinion, to make all Americans fearful of what this administration can do to them.
I know this might sound like a simple question, but why do you think they wanted to do that in that moment? I mean, why, as you said, if they let you in, why would they then turn around after giving you access for 90 minutes and letting you see and do your job? What switched and made them say, you know what, let's now try to escalate this?
I mean, I think this is just what this administration does. This is a pattern of behavior that we see from the administration, making things difficult, causing chaos. I mean, not allowing lawmakers to do their jobs. I mean, we constantly see that each and every day. Once again, we're going to be arrested for doing our jobs. Like, we are there to do exactly what we are supposed to be doing. We did not break any laws. We are not breaking any laws by going to show up unannounced to a detention center. But I just think this is what they want to do. They want to cause confusion. They want to cause chaos. And I think showing that you can treat 3 members of Congress like that on live TV and, everyone recording, it definitely instills more fear into a regular person, who's walking the street, who feel like, hey, oh my God, I'm scared to death. If they can treat an elected official like that at the federal level, they can do anything.
We're also hearing the White House, both the president himself and his aide, Stephen Miller, talk about trying to suspend due process for immigrants. What's the role for Congress here in trying to make sure that the Constitution is observed?
Well, it's a constant erosion of constitutional rights. You've seen it since day one of this administration. And the only thing I would add to what LaMonica had said about the previous question is that this is a pattern that they are creating, that this administration is creating. It's judges, it's federal judges who they disagree with their decisions. It's mayors, it's now members of Congress that they're threatening, and even members of Congress. When Robert Garcia, our great colleague from California, had said something about Elon Musk, he got a letter from the acting U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia. So this is a clear pattern of intimidation. And at some point, they are going to cross the line. And that's why we want to tell the American people that in this country, under the Trump administration, no one should feel safe.
And to be clear, as Stephen Miller said on the very same afternoon that all of this happened to you, flirting with this idea of suspending habeas corpus. If habeas corpus is suspended, taken away, that impacts a whole lot more than just immigrants,
Correct.
visa holders, undocumented
Correct.
people here in America, right?
It takes away due process from every American. And that should be a problem for all of us. Like, I mean, why would we want to, instill for them to be the jury, the judge, and all in this administration that has constantly lied to us, broken rules, disobeyed judges multiple times, disregard for Congress and the Senate? Why would we want to do that? Like, based off behavior just from January 20th, from when the president was, sworn in. It's dangerous and it's terrifying to think that they would even be thinking like this. And why think like this? Because they're not getting their way in every corner. Judges are stopping them. They're not able to do everything they want to do. So they want to continue to weaken the rights of the American people.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on what your constituents say to you when they see you out here doing this type of oversight and this type of work. I think it speaks to a broader debate, I think, within the Democratic Party in this country at large as to what our elected officials should be doing in this moment to try to fight the Trump administration and their abuse of power. And there's no doubt that when members of Congress go out and they're kind of seen on the front lines of this fight, they get a lot of praise, they get a lot of support. What are you hearing from your constituents about this fight and this struggle? Do they want to see more of this, or do they think this is disruptive?
They want to see you speak up.
Right.
And that's not every day. That's not on every issue, right? But if there's something so fundamentally wrong as what you saw yesterday, they want you to speak up. They want you to be there with Congresswoman Watson Coleman when she's being surrounded by ICE agents at the age of 80. They want you to say that's not right. And what happened yesterday was not right. What happened to LaMonica and to Bonnie was not right. What happened to the mayor was not right. That should not happen in this country. And people need to call it out, right? So they expect their elected officials, rightfully so, to call out these things, the harm that this administration is doing. But what we all need to do is band together, right? And say not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans, this is fundamentally wrong. And that's what we've seen people ask us to continue doing. We're asking our constituents to do is to lift their voices because they are the red line in a democracy.
Absolutely. And it's un-American. Like, you know, this is un-American, regardless of what side you're on. It's un-American and it's unnecessary. I would say in New Jersey, we're home to many immigrant families. We represent thousands of them. And immigration has been a big piece for us in New Jersey. Immigration is in our backyards. And this is something that's concerning. Many organizations are speaking out against the things that are happening. We see it each and every day in New Jersey. And this is why this is important to the people that we represent and why we all should be speaking out when people are being, you know, denied due process and members of Congress are being denied the exact right to do their job.
What did you actually see inside this facility? Congresswoman McIver, you talked about the things you worried about. What did you actually see?
I mean, at the end of the day, we were able to speak to detainees, and the detainees told us about how they were okay at the moment, but they were so confused. They did not know what was going on. They did not have access to phones regularly to talk to their lawyers, to talk to their families. Some women were telling us there were 5 women held there in one room, and they told us that they hadn't spoken to families in weeks, you know, and that they just did not know what was going on. Confused. Many told me that one woman told me she was depressed, a woman from the Philippines who was there, and she was just like, hey, I'm just so depressed, I'm so worried, like, you know, I wish I can get some answers. And so that was super concerning to know that they were in that state, you know, of mind and not able to talk to people on the phone, you know.
Do they have access to their legal counsel, at least?
She told me that she didn't have access to legal counsel. They hadn't been able to talk over the phone, which was super concerning.
And what I would just quickly add is we mentioned that we've been to the Elizabeth Detention Center. That's a facility run by CoreCivic. Yeah. The one that we visited yesterday at Delaney Hall is run by GEO Group. So 2 different groups. They do things completely different. CoreCivic outsources some of their things, like their health services. GEO keeps it all in-house, right? We also learned yesterday that they have to have their employees approved by DHS. They haven't been able to get all of their employees approved, so they're on limited staff, which means there's a limited number of detainees that they can have, despite the administration wanting to bring as many people in. Completely different setup for detainees, right? They share a hallway, they can open their door. Things are just completely different that have a different set of questions for each facility. This is why we conduct oversight, so we can understand the differences between 2 facilities, not to do what the administration is saying and try to shut it down and keep criminals out of the street. We have a right to understand how they're conducting themselves, especially when you think about the dollars that we're spending on private detention.
I believe $1 billion for this one facility.
And so if Republicans in Congress won't conduct oversight, which they have the opportunity to do, right, as the chairman of oversight and other committees, we have to conduct some level of oversight to make sure everything's working properly. That's what we want. We want people to be safe, but we have to be granted access. That's what yesterday was about. And DHS purposefully made it something else to make it a spectacle so they can put it on television and paint a different story of what yesterday was about.
Well, if you are able to get back inside and you can come back on and tell us what you see, what you hear from detainees in the future, we hope to have you both again.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver and Congressman Robert Menendez.